So this is a pretty interesting story. It's more of a culture issue. So here's what happened. So James Corden, he's a late night TV show host. He's known as like the positive guy. He's the jolly guy. He doesn't want to insult anybody. His vibe is not edgy comedy by any means or any of that kind of stuff. Just trying to be the least controversial essentially. And so what it says is James Corden Truth or Dare food segment criticized for being culturally insensitive. So this is an interesting topic. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about SJWs, social justice warriors, and that kind of stuff. But here's what this says. Okay. It says TV host James Corden is facing backlash over a segment of his popular late night show that some may have deemed culturally insensitive. A petition has been started that calls for an end to the use of culturally significant food in a truth or dare style segment on the Late Late Show with James Corden, CNN reports. During the Spill Your Guts or Fill Your Guts portion of the show, Corden asks celebrities personal or uncomfortable questions. They have to either answer the questions or eat whatever unsavory dishes sit before them. Frequently, the quote unquote disgusting foods are ones that are traditional dishes in Asian cultures prepared in an unappetizing way. Past episodes have included balut, I don't know if I'm saying that right, a boiled bird embryo traditional Filipino culture, and thousand-year-old eggs, a Chinese delicacy. Kim Sarah, a 24-year-old Filipina and Chinese-American activist, said she started the petition against Corden's segment amid the rise in anti-Asian sentiment throughout the coronavirus pandemic. Quote, it perpetuates this myth that Asian people are disgusting or horrifying because he's taking foods that are so unfamiliar and telling other people that they're disgusting. She told CNN, it does perpetuate the cycle of anti-Asian racism. Since Sarah started a petition, which now has more than 43,000 signatures, Corden has vowed to stop using culturally significant foods in the segment. Quote, the next time we do that bit, we absolutely won't involve or use any of those foods. As you said at the start, our show is about joy and light and love. We don't want to make the show to upset anybody. That's what he said in the Howard Stern show. And she says that that's not enough. She's actually asking for Corden, demanding essentially to issue a public apology. So the thing about this is, you may, some of you guys may essentially just kind of toss this in the waste bin and be like, oh, there's just SJW stuff. But I do think that there's a lot of merit to this, especially because there just seems to be a lot of cultural distance. And when you think about, like, for example, like something like goat meat, for example, like why is goat meat not consumed more in the United States? It's like health-wise, it's way healthier than any of the other red meats. I've had goat; it tastes really good, but it's like just kind of this cultural barrier, I think, where Americans think that goat doesn't really, goat just isn't an animal to be eaten. And you see different foods from different cultures, and so when you are having this show, and then you're having these kinds of foods that are meant to be, nasty or disgusting or repulsive to people that they don't want to eat, you kind of are attaching this sort of thing that makes people's cultures and thereby them subject to a lot of outright racism. Honestly, I mean, you can see now with what Asians have been facing in terms of racism attacks, violent attacks. I've seen videos of people, who are saying unintelligible, words essentially, and supposed what they deem to be supposedly Chinese sounding sounds, just various racist things. And this is another one of those things that does end up perpetuating that. And so, what is common in another culture, you may look at it as like, wow, that's crazy. But, when you do this kind of a thing, you do kind of perpetuate the racism against other cultures and kind of pushing the distance further. Now, the question then is like, okay, well, how do you have this show without having these foods that the culture that you live in doesn't look at as normal, because the odds are that that's probably, it's probably what's abnormal in your culture is probably normal somewhere else. So whether it's like, I don't know, snake or something like that, maybe it's, common in another culture, but it's uncommon here. You know what I mean? So it's kind of tough. You'd have to find foods that aren't common in other areas, but are what you think would be, repulsive or bad, essentially. So that kind of makes it tough. But I definitely agree that yes, there's definitely a racial component that does definitely contribute to the racism issue, where you'll people will look at a certain race of people and be like, wow, you're animals or something racist like that because of what they eat, because you look at what they eat and you're like, wow, I can't believe they're eating that. So crazy, right? And so I do think that, yeah, some people may sort of push this to the wayside and say this is an SJW issue, but I kind of understand it. I think it really makes sense, especially seeing what's going on with the anti-Asian racism right now. Definitely, I think definitely makes sense.